Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here Monday, May 12th. Gloomy, rainy morning here in Duval County, but we are not letting that get us down here on the channel. Excited to talk about one of the Jaguars' early day 3 picks from the 2025 NFL Draft, linebacker Jack Kaiser out of Notre Dame. So Kaiser is an interesting study. There's a lot to like on tape with Jack Kaiser, and there's a lot to like from an intangible standpoint. Obviously, that's kind of the case with all these Jaguars players that come in here with this new regime. And this new regime, they keep churning, they keep adding guys from the Los Angeles Rams in the front office. That's going to be the MO of James Gladstone here. He came in and he kind of had to assimilate himself with the current regime that was still in place because he came in so late in the process. He just kind of had to jump in and try to kind of makeshift it this year with the draft and free agency. But now they're really kind of making this front office into the vision that Gladstone has, and it is a lot of Rams influence coming in. No surprise by that. But one of the players, again, that the Jaguars drafted in the 4th round, Jack Kiser, we're going to kind of dive into what he can be for the Jaguars, what his role is going to be like looking at the roster, and just look ahead to the future with Jack Kiser. Really, really, to me, like a glue type of player for a Notre Dame defense that was one of the best defenses in college football last year. Watching him and watching that defense, it was kind of like it was like watching just a predator waiting for its prey to make a mistake. That's what the Notre Dame defense was like. Just waiting and waiting to be able to capitalize. And they always capitalized when mistakes were made. And Jack Kiser was a big part of that. Now, they had an extremely talented group overall, in my opinion. And I think that's going to continue moving forward. But Jack Kiser, one of the leaders of that defense and leaders of that football team. And I'd be remiss, I think, if I didn't bring up the fact that we did have rookie minicamp this weekend, and we were out there and had a good time, and it was high energy. Travis Hunter all day, right? Like, fans were fired up to see Travis Hunter every time he touched the football or looked at the football or danced. Fans were getting fired up, and he brought a lot of energy to the rest of the team and to the fans. So I think the fans and the team were kind of feeding off of each other, which was pretty cool to see at rookie minicamp. You never see that in Jacksonville. Haven't seen fans at rookie minicamp allowed to attend rookie minicamp in a long time. But after practice, Liam Cohen was asked about, guys outside of Travis Hunter who have really impressed them. And Liam Cohen said, first and foremost, he thought that Jack Kiser on the defensive side of the ball, just from a diligence standpoint, he said you can tell already he already has some of those leadership qualities that you look for. He's in really good physical shape coming into camp here this weekend. So for him to be the first guy when Liam Cohen is asked about who impressed him from the rookies, for him to be the first guy he mentions, obviously, other than talking about Travis Hunter, because he's always going to be the first player mentioned in any conversation here when it comes to the Jaguars and especially their rookie class. I thought that really said something, and it's not surprising to me based on his tape. When you dive into Jack Kiser, the prospect coming in here to Jacksonville, played at Notre Dame a long time. One of the first things that pops out to me, just he's always in the right place at the right time. His eyes are guiding him to the right place, and his understanding of the defense and how offenses are trying to attack as well. So you see him consistently getting in spots where he's either making the tackle, or if he feels like he's in a spot where he can't get to the ball carrier, where he can't get to the play, you see him leaning back on knowing his leverage. And that means, like, let's say he's got inside help when it comes to snuffing out a run. He's going to take outside leverage to force the runner back inside, or vice versa. You see both of those on tape where if he's not going to be able to make the play, he generally is able to get in position to where he's going to allow others to clean up and make a play. And I think that instinctualness, that kind of understanding of how to play the position is really impressive. Physically, not the biggest linebacker out there. Not at all. I think he's about 6'1", about 230 pounds. But he's got really good agility. I think that agility helps him in a variety of ways on the field. I think it shows up most when you talk about his coverage ability. As he's reading the quarterback in zone coverage, he's able to very quickly and nimbly kind of adjust to where the quarterback's eyes are, and also marrying that with his understanding of the assignment in zone coverage. I think it really helps him be a highly effective coverage defender, especially in those zone looks we're talking about, and really negates the windows that quarterbacks have to throw to in those zones in the middle of the field. And then you talk about him as a man coverage player. I think he is really good in man coverage against running backs and tight ends. So that's a lot of positivity you can talk about as a coverage backer. And I think that's what stands out the most. But then you look at him just against the run, and we talked about, understanding his leverage really well, which he does. He doesn't miss tackles either. He's not a thumper. Like, he's not the strongest guy out there. He's not the biggest guy out there at linebacker, but he does not miss tackles. Like, he had over 100 tackles this past year at Notre Dame, only 5 missed tackles. Like, a missed tackle percentage of under 5% when you're that heavily involved in so many tackle attempts is really impressive. So I think you're talking about somebody who has a lot of positive traits just watching the film. And then you also talk about big time special teams player. I mean, he's a core 4 special teams player at Notre Dame. And if you're going to make a team as a day 3 pick, you probably have to be able to play some special teams. And he's going to be a great special teams player early on in his career. So you're looking at a lot of things stacking up in Jack Kaiser's favor. Now you say, well, okay, you've got all these great things. Why was he available in the 4th round? Again, not the biggest. He's also not like a supreme athlete at his size, but he is a good athlete at his size. About 4.62, 40-yard dash, really good agility, decent explosiveness. So a good, not great athlete who I think the strengths of his athleticism is more about that agility, that quickness and fluidity versus his straight up like explosiveness, but not bad explosive. 4.62 at linebacker is fine, right? And like, again, his explosiveness, like with his broad jump and his vertical, it was average. It wasn't anything special, or it wasn't anything really negative. So I think you can talk about those things not like being eye-popping numbers. And then you can also talk about just the fact that, like, taking on guards, that's going to be tough. If a guard who has strength and balance and some explosiveness is able to get hands on him, at the second level, that can be tough for him to get off of. But that's most linebackers are going to struggle with that to a certain extent. Most guys are just not tossing guards to the wayside. And if you are, you're probably going to end up, if you're Jack Kaiser playing like Jack Kaiser does in coverage and you can toss guards, you're probably going to end up being like a top 15 pick, right? That's just kind of how it goes. So not that many players have every single attribute you could look for from the linebacker position. But Kaiser, again, great tackler, great in terms of just knowing where to be, when to be there. He is a very effective blitzer as well. He blitzes quite a bit at Notre Dame and comes up with sacks, comes up with pressures, makes a lot of plays. He's a high-effort player. You see him chasing down plays down the field, across the field, whatever it may be. And then, again, you have that special teams value. So I think that's a lot to get excited about from a early day 3 player who I thought could have been a day 2 pick. I thought he could have been a 3rd-round pick for sure. I think he long-term projects to be a starter in this league. Do I think he's going to be like this all-pro or, top 5, top 10 linebacker? Maybe not, but I do think he's a guy who, again, what he does is reliable. It's very reliable. The coverage ability, the again lack of missed tackles, the assignment sound football, those are traits that can help a defense at an extremely high level. They might not be traits that are going to get him into, again, all pros, but you never know. You never know with Jack Kaiser. I don't think he's going to end up being a top 5 linebacker, top 10 linebacker, but I do think he'll be a quality starter who more often than not is getting the job done for you. Because again, the baseline physical traits are there, and all the above the shoulders, it's there at an extremely high level. The mental part of the game and the effort. So good pick in my opinion. Now, how does he fit with the current Jaguars? The Jaguars have a tricky linebacker room because Foye Oluokun is obviously the leader of the room. And I think that contractually, they could, if they want to, I think, do a post-June 1 cut next year with Foye. But there's a number of players who could potentially fill that, post-June 1 cut. Because the way a lot of these Jaguars contracts are structured, late from the Trent Baalke era of general management, a lot of them kind of, for 2026, the only way that it would make sense is the post-June 1 designation, but you only get 2 post-June 1 designations each year. And Foye, going to be 30 years old. I would like the Jaguars to keep him around as long as he's still playing at a high level and leading at a high level. I don't see him hitting that cliff at all in terms of any of that right now. I think that he's a leader. He's a really good linebacker. So I would project Foye obviously be here in 2025, but to me, it would be wise for the Jaguars to let him play out his contract. But the more interesting thing is the rest of the linebackers. Devin Lloyd going into a contract year, Chad Muma in a contract year. Ventrell Miller has had some issues staying healthy. He's obviously not the super high-level athlete, but he is a thumper, really good run defender. So there's some interesting question marks at the Jaguars linebacker position of the future. I don't know that Jack Kaiser is going to step in and start from day one, but if there's struggles, if there's issues starting next to Foye Oluokun at linebacker, if there's inconsistency, could Jack Kaiser find the field in his rookie year? Probably, but I really would not be surprised if the Jaguars are going into 2026 and you look up and Jack Kaiser is slated to be a starter. Because again, Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, both in contract years. Both of those guys were not drafted by this regime. And they've both had a lot of inconsistencies. Now, if Devin Lloyd goes out and has that year where he kind of puts it all together, stops having coverage busts, yeah, he could be somebody they prioritize. But then again, is this going to be a regime that prioritizes having expensive off-ball linebackers? I would lean no. We don't know for sure, but you see James Gladstone coming over from the Rams. You see all these front office guys coming over from the Rams with him. That was not an organization that really valued paying off-ball linebacker. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be here moving forward. So I think you could see a lot of turnover at linebacker. And I think Jack Kaiser could be the beneficiary of that. And I think whenever his number is called, whenever he is asked to get out there on the grass for them, obviously on special teams early on in his young career, but on defense, I think he's going to be ready. I think he's that type of player. And Notre Dame has produced a lot of those types of linebackers over the years. When I watch him, I kind of see Drew Tranquill light. If y'all are familiar with him, he played with the Chargers and now plays with the Chiefs. They're similar players, in my opinion. Not going to be the best take-on guys, taking on guards and stuff, but they can fly around the football field and make a lot of plays and be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there and be special teams aces. Tranquill was a more impressive overall athlete, right? But similar play style. So that's kind of my thoughts on Jack Kaiser. I think he's going to be a starter for the Jaguars. Is that going to be in week 1? Is that going to be in week 8? Is that going to be to start the 2026 season? I'm not sure, but I do think he's going to end up being a starter for this football team and being a reliable guy out there on the field. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.